Welcome, everyone. Today, we're talking about training the brain. We work out to protect our heart, we eat well to protect our body. But when it comes to our brain, many people assume decline is just part of aging, something inevitable. The science suggests otherwise. Research on neuroplasticity shows the brain can adapt, strengthen, and build resilience when it's intentionally challenged. With dementia cases on the rise, the real question becomes, can targeted brain training actually help protect cognitive function? And that's what we're going to explore today. I welcome Ron Nevelow with Enlighten. I am Christy Osborne with Fairway Home Mortgage, and we are excited to delve into this topic today. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you, Christy.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you tell folks just a little bit about yourself, and then let's kind of dive into the topic?
Well, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. Been doing this for over 30 years. Been working in mental health practices, brought brain fitness to Texas about 10 years ago, where we're doing some really innovative stuff that's just not being done elsewhere. And I don't know why. I'm trying to spread it as much as I can and educate people wherever I can.
I love that. I do think that that's part of any process. It's just educating people on what's it about and what can they do. And so I hope that they'll come away today with some great information that you have to share. So one
I
of
hope
the things
so
I want
too.
to, well, all right. One of the things I want to ask you is if you would define for us brain training, because I think automatically when people think about brain training, they think, oh, like puzzles or games or, those types of things that we might see out in the common world.
Yeah, and some of that is relevant, and I think there are a lot of misnomers about that we can get into later, but the technical term is cognitive rehab. And what we're doing is we're trying to build cognitive resilience, which is, in other words, protecting the brain from outside things that might harm it in some way. And by protecting the brain. Resilience being like, a beach ball, when you push it in, it pushes back. That's the idea of what we're trying to do with the brain. And there are a lot of different things that you can do. And so we're trying to educate people about how to build that resilience. And then in doing so, where that ability isn't available or readily available, we're providing that service for them.
So, talk to me about the current research and about brain training and dementia risk reduction. Is there a
Okay,
correlation?
so probably the easiest way to say that is talking about cognitive resilience, the idea of trying to avoid ever getting dementia in the first place. So when I first started doing this, I went online and I did my research. And for the most part, I found 5 things that have been proven to work. Then I later came across a brain research university doing brain research, and they did an online course on how to prevent dementia or how to lessen the risk. Same 5 things came up. And then
Mm,
about a year ago, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, which most people have heard of, the
mhm.
doctor to the stars, took time off and wrote a book. He did research on brain health, and he wanted to know how to protect the brain, cognitive resilience. And he came up with the same 5 things. So I'm pretty comfortable telling you there are 5 things that have been proven. So if I
Uh-huh.
can, shall I go through the 5 things?
Yeah, let's hear them for sure.
Okay. So here are the 5 things in no particular order. Even though I'll tell you, number one, I'm going to give you is if most researchers and experts told you only one, if they were only allowed one, this is number one, aerobic exercise. And by aerobic exercise, what I'm talking about is any exercise which increases your heart rate over a period of time. So instead of stopping and starting, like I love playing pickleball, or I used to play basketball and tennis, but that's start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. That's not aerobic. Aerobic would be like walking or jogging or swimming, where you're increasing your heart rate, but you're not stopping while you're doing it. And that's aerobic.
Mm,
And, when I talk to older adults, some of them are, they're just not doing that. They don't know that. And even
yeah.
the ones that don't like exercise, I tell them, well, do you like a healthy brain? And they're like, yeah. And I go, well, don't think of it as exercise. Think of it as getting your brain healthy. Then I have the people that either have trouble walking or can't walk. And what I'll tell them is sit in a chair, move your arms, move your legs, move your body wherever you can. It's going to increase your heart rate. Keep doing it for as long as you can, up to 30 minutes a day. That's the goal. 30 minutes a day aerobic exercise is the gist of it. So when people aren't doing it at all, I'd say start with 5 minutes. Stop when you get too tired. Now, I don't want them getting tired,
Right.
because that's when you, particularly when they're walking, that's when you get to a fall risk. I don't want
Uh,
that. So I'll say do 5 minutes a day. And if you can, do 5 minutes a day, twice a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, or something like that, and build up over time. But when you get to 30, you don't need more than 30. 30 is the 30 minutes every day. Okay. Continuing on my list in no particular order, social interaction. Social interaction, when I talk to people like I'm talking to you now, I'm using a lot of different brain functions. Okay. I'm using short-term memory. I'm trying to remember what we're talking about and what your name is and why we're talking. I'm using processing speed. I'm taking information you're giving me, processing it, and figuring out what do I want to say in return. I'm using focus, so I'm not distracted by things going on around me, so you and I can have a good conversation. So there are different things going on when people are interacting socially, particularly when they don't know the person real well. So I always tell people, like in senior living communities, I'm like, go talk to people you don't know as well. Talk to the newer people. They need to connect anyway. You might meet someone phenomenal, but you'll really give your brain a workout. So social interaction, that's the second one. A third one is eat a heart healthy diet. Anything good
uh,
for the heart's been shown to be good for the brain. So that could be things like blueberries is like the number one brain health food. It could be blueberries, walnuts, salmon. My mom wants me to tell you broccoli, but it is. I won't eat it, but others if they like it. Yeah, absolutely. Fresh fruits and vegetables for the most part are always good, but it's a heart healthy diet. Fourth thing, and if you ever come across experts telling you more than five, it's because they've taken my fourth category and split it into a lot of
okay.
things. It's take care of your health, physical health and mental health. So what that looks like with brain health is keep your cholesterol down, the
Mhm.
unhealthy part. Keep your blood pressure down. There has been proven a connection between brain issues and high blood pressure, brain issues and high cholesterol.
Mm.
Get enough sleep. Keep yourself hydrated. I'm big on saying keep a cup of water with you wherever you go so that you think of it. That you
Yeah.
think to drink because we don't think to drink normally unless we're sitting down for a meal. And you're not going to get enough water that way. And then take care of your mental health. Some of the people that I work with are battling issues with depression, anxiety. And some of that shows up as, memory issues when, if you take care of the depression, all of a sudden your memory gets better. That means it wasn't your memory, it's the depression. So take care of your mental health. So physical, mental health, that's number four. And the fifth one, which is where my group comes in, is challenging cognitive activities. And that's where we're talking about trying to find things where particularly where you're weaker at. And so this is where I was talking about crossword puzzles. A
Yeah.
lot of places think, no, you got to do crossword puzzles. Do crossword puzzles. Crossword puzzles are good for word retention and long-term memory, which is fine, but most people, the first sign is short-term memory.
Mm.
So I tell people is if you're just starting to notice a change, it's probably short-term memory. And you need to be doing things for short-term memory. Crossword puzzles aren't short-term memory. So what
Interesting.
types of things do you do? My favorite thing is go learn something new or relearn something. Learning stuff is great. It's why I think you don't see a lot of brain health issues for people that are working. Why? They're always learning new stuff or
Yeah.
relearning stuff or following stuff. Their brains are so active. So when my brother retired, I told him, you're not going to stop learning. It's a big mistake. Go get on an aerobic exercise program and keep learning stuff. That's so
Yeah.
important. And he's doing great. Of course he is. He's doing what he needs to do. Yet
Yeah.
when we had the lockdown for COVID, we had a lot of issues in these senior living communities because they were cut off from exercise and they were cut off from learning.
Wow. So, what is actually happening in the brain during effective cognitive training, scientifically?
So yeah, so what we're doing is we're activating the parts of the brain that are underutilized. It's why my group calls it brain fitness, like physical fitness. So if you're having trouble walking, you need to build up those muscles using walking, right? So
Yeah.
if I'm having issues with short-term memory, what we're trying to do is identify the parts of the brain that are underperforming, and work them. The more you work them, the more likely they will strengthen up, thus cognitive resilience. You got to identify what you're struggling with and then work on that part. Just like you would with your physical body, you need to do it with your brain fitness.
Yeah. You said something very intriguing to me when I first met you at that group about how this can delay or stave off dementia. So
Yes.
is how does that actually work? It actually can someone who's genetically predisposed maybe to Alzheimer's or something like that. How does that help them delay the onset or the progression of that disease?
Okay, so let's start with talking about dementia. Dementia is an
Okay.
overall category, right? So a lot of people get confused when they talk about Alzheimer's and dementia. The best way I can equate it is Alzheimer's is to dementia what football is to sports. So
Mhm.
dementia is the overall category, and there are a lot of different types, the most prevalent being Alzheimer's. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's why people all talk about Alzheimer's. It's not the only type, but it's the primary type, right? And another thing to know about dementia is we don't have a cure for it and it's progressive. So
Yeah.
once you get it, it's going to get worse over time and there's no way to stop it. At least at this point in time, we haven't made that breakthrough. The science researchers haven't found it yet. So what I prefer to do is identify people who don't have it but are starting to notice a decline. That's what we call the mild cognitive impairment or an MCI. So if you read a lot about how to avoid dementia, you're going to come across the term MCI or mild cognitive impairment.
Okay.
So the question becomes, okay, so is it really stopping dementia? Well, if you get it early enough, yeah. Yeah. So we've been doing this about a decade now. I've worked with over 100 people easily. And all the people that are doing what I'm telling them to do that I caught early enough, the person that's like right on the edge of dementia, it's very hard to stop that. But the
Mhm.
ones that are
Okay.
starting to notice a decline, that concern them, I love working with them. None of them are getting dementia. So why is it? Well, I really think it's because 'cause they're doing these 5 things or more than not these 5 things. So,
Right.
the person who is predisposed to it, it doesn't mean they're going to get dementia, it means they're more likely to get dementia. Just like the person who, has a parent who is an addict, it means they're more predisposed to becoming an addict themselves. Doesn't mean they will become one, it just means they're more predisposed to it. So, what do
Right.
you do? Well, particularly if you're predisposed to dementia, all the more reason to be doing these 5 things.
So let me ask you because I think people in our audience are going to want to know when you think MCI, what are you looking for? Because like I've been walking into a room forgetting why I walked in there since I was in my 40s. What is that, versus what's really concerning when you think about MCI?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you the semi-professional version of what to look for because I'm
Okay.
not the one that tests, and I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not a neurologist, okay?
Okay.
But I can tell you pretty much what I look for because I'm the one that treats these people, and what I'm looking for is memory issues that are worse over the last 5 years.
Okay.
So, if I notice that I'm misplacing things more than I used to, not that I misplace things, misplacing things for years, but more than I used to in the last 5 years, that's a concern. If I've always been bad with names, but if I've been worse with names in the last 5 years, yeah, that's a concern. If I notice when I'm talking to people and there's a lot going on around me, I'm more easily distracted than I used to be the last 5 years, that's a concern. And if I'm having trouble jumping into a conversation because it's taking me longer to think about what I want to say. Or if I'm noticing that when I'm trying to tell people what I want to say and I'm losing words or it's taking longer to get to me
Mm,
more than I used to, that's where I say go get checked out or
got it.
start working on this. But on the other hand, when you hit a certain age, I'd say you need to be doing these 5 things. You just do. And it's something you can always do. It's
Well,
good for you anyway
right.
at any age, but it's in particularly important as you age because as we age, our brain's aging, and our aging does not help our brain. It it
Right.
it makes us more susceptible. The older we get, the more likely we are to have brain health issues, more likely we are to have a mild cognitive impairment, more likely we are to get dementia. the older we
Mhm.
get. And truthfully, we're getting older and older. Our life expectancy is increasing.
Yeah.
When I was a kid in the 60s, you were old. You were on a walker, you were just having trouble. And that's now what I'm seeing.
Uh-huh.
And I know some people in their hundreds. You never knew people in their hundreds. I didn't.
Yeah.
Now I do, and part of it is, yeah, I'm around a lot more older people, but I see people in their 60s and 70s that are very vibrant. It didn't used to be that way,
Right?
50 years ago. So things are
Yeah.
changing, and that's a good thing, but we have to take
Yeah.
care of ourselves as a result.
Right. There's a lot of things that come along with that that need to change. I want to go back and ask you one thing about the five things that you mentioned. And I'm only asking this because I'm a pickleballer. I love to play pickleball, but you said that
Me
is
too.
not one of the athletic things or the things that you recommend. Is that because, like, even if you're playing a game, that game's going to go on 30 minutes maybe, but it's because you're stopping and waiting for that next serve and that kind of thing. And so it's just you need to be
It's
constantly
the
moving.
stop and start keeps it from being aerobic. But
Okay.
here's something about pickleball, since you're a pickleballer and those in the
Okay.
audience listening will know this, it's an incredibly social sport.
Yes.
Unlike when I played tennis or basketball, I would have a game waiting for me and I knew the people. Pickleball, I'd show up and see who's there and we play. That's part of the allure and why people are really taking to pickleball so much is it's so social.
Yeah.
You just go in and just start playing with people. I played last night. I met a few people that I'd never met before. And so it's more challenging for me. And then I'm tracking the score because I got to call out the score all the time or help my partner remember what the score is. And unlike other
Yeah.
scores where it's two numbers, in pickleball it's three numbers because you got to
Mhm.
remember who's serving and what server you're dealing with. And so there's a lot of other stuff going on. So from a pure exercise perspective, no, I'd much rather you be walking for exercise. And I don't mean speed walking, just fast enough to where your heart's increasing. That's actually ideal. It's ideal for me too. But is it of no use? Oh no, pickleball is very social, and the social
Okay.
part is good for the brain.
Perfect. Okay. So I can keep playing. Not that I
Absolutely.
was gonna stop. I love pickleball. I'm obsessed, honestly.
I don't blame
Okay.
you. Me too.
So when you think about brain training, are there specific modalities that show stronger evidence of being better than other type of things, such as like speed training or, computer-based programs or,
No, that's a really good question. So one of the things that research has shown, for instance, like Lumosity is doing a lot of advertising out there. You've probably heard of them. A lot of
oh
our
yeah.
people have. Yeah, they do a lot. Then that's great, and I like their stuff. But the problem is that they're pushing it as if you do their stuff and you're going to be in good shape. And what the research is showing is a little different. And what the research is showing, and it makes total sense to me after doing this for a decade, is that when people do stuff by themselves, they want to win. They don't want to
Uh-huh.
push themselves. They want to win. They'll play the same game over and over and over again because they
Mhm.
want to win. And that's nice. And that's okay. It's just not as effective as what we do. So, what we do is we're providing someone to facilitate the playing of these games. And when you do that, we're finding a better result. Why? I don't care whether you win or not. I want to challenge you. So, you may want it
Mm.
at an easier level because you want to win. You've already won that level. We're going to up it a level and move it to another higher to challenge you to where you have a chance to win, but it's going to be tough. And then when you've played one game, I jump to another game, even if I'm working on the same things, because I can play 6 of one game or 6 different games working on short-term memory, let's say. 6 different games will be a lot harder than the same game over and over again. Doing the same game over and over again gets me good at the game. When my clients are working on this, I don't care if they get good at the game. I want them to improve what we're working on. So what they're finding is that, it's not a shot against Lumosity or playing on your own. I'm just saying that if you either need to push yourself intentionally or get someone who will do that, which physically it's the same thing, right? Yeah, I can go work out on my own to rehab, but when I have someone, a physical therapist, pushing me and telling me what to do and where, it's so much better. I'm
All
just so
right.
much better off.
Totally resonate with that because, like, I will get rid of a game if it gets too hard. I'm like, it's not fun anymore.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's true. When you think about training, what dose? What like how often is someone, supposed to be doing these types of things? What's the frequency there?
Every day.
Mhm.
You wanna do the 5 things every day if you can. Now, are people going to? No, I don't think so, but the brain stuff's easy to do. I really think so. Can I go learn something every day or relearn something? If you are technically savvy at all, can you use an iPhone and play a game? Yeah? Go find a game that'll challenge you, particularly
Mhm.
short-term memory stuff. That's the that and processing speed. Anything where you got to decide quicker, you don't have no timer
Uh-huh.
at all, but you have like 2 minutes to do something. Excellent. Excellent. Like I have a word game. Okay, word retention is not the number one thing I need to be working on, but why? Well, but I'm on a game that I've got 2 minutes to find the 6-letter word. Well, I'm trying to find other words, but I don't advance unless I find the 6-letter word. I got 2 minutes. I gotta hurry.
Yeah,
That's
right.
processing speed. So that's a good
Okay.
one. But another thing is, I'm a big proponent of this also. There are a lot of different sites or apps that will teach you a foreign language.
Yeah.
Teaching a foreign language, I think, is a huge win. And the reason why most people are like, no, not doing that. But when people think of learning a language, they remember when they had to do it in school. But see, in school, you had to worry about grades and quizzes and tests and your teachers and your
Proper grammar.
parents and your all this stuff that's not relevant anymore. I,
Uh-huh.
I don't care whether you do well on the app and learning the language. I want you to just go learn it. So if there's ever a language that you always wanted to learn, go learn it. If I had someone who was fluent in 2 languages, but hadn't spoken it in decades. I'm like, "You wanna relearn it? Which one?" And we went and started relearning it. I think it's great. Or if
Yeah.
you're a Star Trek fan, go learn Klingon. There's actually on one of these apps, at least one, I've seen it, where one of the languages you can go learn is Klingon, which
That's
is a made-up
greatness.
language from the TV movie series Star Trek, which I think is hysterical.
So, when you think about training your brain, is there different activities that you would think if someone doesn't have any cognitive decline versus someone who does have cognitive decline? Any difference there?
Not really. I just start to focus on the short-term memory stuff. Anything where I gotta remember stuff in the moment. I think it's so much better. And anything with processing speed, I think is better. It's a lot easier to do the word stuff, crossword puzzles, stuff like that. It is easier. Of course it is, because you're not as it's not as big an issue for you.
Yeah.
But once it becomes an issue, absolutely do it. And I'm not saying don't do it. If you enjoy it, that's fine. But if you're thinking crossword puzzles is what you need for your challenging cognitive activity every day, I'm going to go find something else. Go learn
Mm,
something new. That's so much more challenging for you. Or find a
yeah.
memory game. Like a memory game can be a card game. Did you ever know the game
Yes.
Concentration?
Yes.
And some people call it the memory game. You take pairs of cards, right? And then you put them all out. You don't have to use the whole deck, because the whole deck can be very intimidating. With some of my clients I do this with, I find 8 pairs of cards, I mix them all up, and I put them face down. And you're only allowed to pick up 2 at a time. You got to match them. And if
Yeah.
they don't match, you got to turn them back over so you can't see them again. Why? Now we're having to use our memory. So then you pick up a different card and you go, hold it, I've seen a queen before. Where did I
Mm.
see it? You're only allowed to pick up one more card. You have to remember, where was the queen you saw before? And if you didn't get it, put them back down over again and start all over again. It's an interesting game. I did it as a child. And
Right.
when I thought about what to do, that's a great game for memory.
Yeah, for sure. I love playing that game with my nieces and nephews. So, training my
And
own
they probably
brain.
beat you every time. The younger ones would, because their memory should be better. I mean, I tell people all the time, don't worry about if you're having memory issues. I mean, my memory's not like it was when I was in my 20s and 30s. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's just age makes it harder. It just does.
Yeah. But you mentioned luminosity, and that makes me want to ask you a question about some of the things that we see out there. How can someone tell if something that's being marketed is really scientifically backed, or if it's just they're marketing it as a brain training when it's really not? Because I see a ton of those. Maybe they know my age, but anything we should be looking for?
Well, question is who's behind it, right?
Okay.
Like, My company uses a website that's games are developed by neuropsychologists. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, now we're talking.
Yeah.
It's a program called Happy Neurons is the program name, Happy Neurons. And there actually is for pay, I believe, a version you can get for your own. Then we're using the professional version, which is a lot
Right.
more informational, a lot more challenging for people. But I don't know, as long as you figure it's working this, who cares as long as you're having fun with it? And I want them to have fun with it. I mean, if you don't like
Yeah.
games, this is not the way. Go learn something new then. Yeah, that'll be better for you. I'm a games player. I love playing games. So it could be virtually anything. I'm one that feels like there's so much stuff out there that I don't have to pay for it. There's a ton of stuff out there for pay. And I don't blame them. I mean, they've
Yeah.
taken the time to develop it, cost them money. This is their career, of course. And some are better than others, you know. Is luminosity better than everyone else? No, I don't think so. I think happy neurons is better than luminosity, but would I rather have both so I can do a lot of variety? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But the idea, if you can get someone to work it for you and push you, it's better. If you don't have that, then push yourself. Don't just keep playing the same one over and over again. And if you can win easily, see if you can make it harder. Like if
Yeah.
I can do 8 sets of cards in playing concentration and nail it 2 times in a row, I need to go to 10 or 9
Hmm.
sets, pairs of cards. And keep pushing it out till it's like, my God, this is tough. Well, that's where I
Yeah.
want to be. Not, oh my God, I can't do this. No, that's not it. It's you want tough. Tough is good for the brain. Challenge,
Yeah.
not cognitive activities, challenging cognitive activities. In fact, when I lecture on this, I always tell people, is what I'm doing lecturing to you a challenging cognitive activity? Raise your hand. They all raise their hand. And I go, I'm going to tell you it's not. It's a
Right.
cognitive activity because there's nothing challenging about this. Now, if later tonight you want to, without looking at any notes, tell people what you learned, that's a challenging cognitive activity. Now it becomes a challenge. A lecture, you can listen, it goes in, goes out, or maybe it sticks. That's great, but that's not the challenge. The challenge is remembering it later. As
Right.
in
That
learning
makes sense.
anything new, remembering it later is the challenge.
Yeah. So let me ask you if there are any developments or innovations that are coming in brain training that you are excited about? Anything new, different on the horizon?
Love to tell you there is. The only thing I can tell you is for older adults living in senior living communities, they need to have this in their community. And the problem
Hmm.
is virtually no one's doing it. And I don't know why they're not doing it. I've talked to communities that didn't get excited about it. And it's really interesting because the most common feedback I get from executive directors is, Ron, there's no downside to what you're telling me. And I was like, if there is, I haven't heard it. I don't know the downside to it. But what's interesting is I talked to a couple of people who no longer worked at the community where I used to pitch it, and they didn't want it. They never acted
Mm,
on it. And the two people had the same thing to say. They said, because they're stupid. I mean, I don't know how else. All I can do is educate you. You need to be doing
right.
this, right? And we make it in such a way so it's so easy to do. So the innovation, what I tell you is that we need more people pushing the 5 things. We need more people helping people do these games and holding them accountable for not doing it or holding them accountable for
Yeah.
not exercising. I talk to my clients all the time. What are you doing to exercise? Are you walking? Have you been walking this week? The ones that aren't, I'm like, okay, what's that about? And
Right.
then when I'm in there, I can help them with other things, like the ones who don't like wearing an alert signal. And that's something I tell all older adults. You need to have one. If you're not going to wear one on you, then get an Apple Watch that has it built in, because they fall.
Yeah.
They're much more high risk of falling. And if they fall and they can't get up, what are you going to do? And I had one client who stayed on the floor for hours, and that later created some serious health issues. And I
Yeah.
saw her the other day and she didn't have it on. This is after she's rehabbed. I'm like,
Oh
you
my
of all
goodness.
people should have learned this lesson. Where is it? She goes, okay, I know where it is. I'll go get it. I go, and I'm walking with you to go get it
I'm
because
watching you
it's like
too.
you could fall on the way. I go, I'm not running that risk. She's like, okay, okay. And I'm like, and if you don't like the thing, like a pendant over you, You can get an Apple Watch. That's what my
Yeah.
mother-in-law has, an Apple Watch, and if she falls, there's an alert on it, and makes it super simple. If you can afford an Apple Watch, I don't mind wearing a watch.
Yeah. We had a client fall, and he was there for over 24 hours, and we just happened to be doing something with him that made us check on him, and we had to get the fire department, they had to break down his door, and,
No.
I mean, he would have passed away. He would lived alone. Nobody checked on him. Yeah, so
When you
good advice.
yeah, particularly when you're on your own,
Yes. So
particularly
you
when you're
mentioned
on your own.
Yes. You mentioned communities. Do you guys does Enlighten bring this just into communities, or do you also work with individuals?
Well, can I tell you a little about Enlighten?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, thank you. My boss wants me to do this.
Let's do it.
Plus, I just want to educate people. And our official name is Enlighten Senior Care. If you go on the web, you go enlightenseniorcare.com. The problem with that is when you hear senior care, you think we're a home health agency. We're not. We're a mental health practice. And what makes us unique is we go into senior living communities. That's our niche. We found a niche not being served. No one in the state of Texas was going into senior living communities and doing one-on-one brain fitness work.
Yeah.
No one. 10 years ago. Okay. Now, how many are now? I don't know. I don't hear of anyone doing it in this area. I really don't. And if there are, I want to hear about them. I want to know who my competition is. But when I talk to people, they're not telling me about anyone else doing this work. So we're going into senior living communities. That's where we can be most effective. We tried a long time ago, as did a predecessor a group of ours tried doing one-on-one work going to people's homes, but doing that you lose a lot of time on travel, and financially it doesn't work. I mean, like it or
Mhm.
not, mental health practice is still a business, like
Right.
any doctor's office, still a business. We can go into a building where there are a bunch of people and reach a lot of people. Then we're just going from apartment to apartment instead of home to home and driving all around. It makes a lot more sense for us. And one of the things that makes us unique from some of the other mental health practices working in these buildings is we assign a clinician to a building. We don't send a bunch of different people to the same building. Like I'm in a building right now where I'm working 4 days a week, and I had so many people on my waiting list. We hired someone else, and she's working 5 days a week now because there's so many people interested in what we're doing. Now, what are we doing? We are doing brain fitness work. That's the thing that most older adults are really interested in. Why? Because they should be, and not wait
Yeah.
till they have dementia. A lot of people hear brain fitness, they go, "Oh, for people with dementia." I go, "Well, we can, because I believe we can slow dementia down. I can't prove it. There's no way to prove it. You can't
Right.
determine ahead of time how long they're going to have it and when the symptoms are. But I really believe, and it makes sense with the science, that what we're doing is going to delay it. And I've talked to some other people working with this community. I had a assisted living director and a nurse practitioner that works only in senior living communities, and they both are very supportive of what we're doing. But I want to get to the person who's just starting to notice that decline, who's just starting to get that mild cognitive impairment, that has it in the early stages. That's where I can help the most. But we go into these communities and we provide the brain fitness work. And we're a mental health practice. We provide supportive counseling. Like, when someone moves in one of these communities, they don't know anyone and they've given up their
Yeah.
home, or they've given up, moved away from the people they know, their friends. They need someone to talk to help them, assimilate into a new community. We can provide
Right.
that. And then in these communities, there's a lot more death and transition and leaving things behind. And we can help with that too. And then
Yeah.
you're going to have a smaller group that's dealing with mental health issues. Depression and anxiety are the two most common in older adults, and our clinicians can deal with that too. We don't do medication. That's not our thing. We're just doing the counseling bit, particularly given the group we're working with, older adults. Most of the people are going to be interested in the brain fitness work, I believe.
Right.
That's what I've
Right.
seen.
I mean, it makes sense to me, and it's a great idea to go where the most seniors are. It's always one-on-one work. Is it ever group work?
No, we're always doing one-on-one work. What I found when I do group stuff, and like occasionally, like as a marketing bit to educate more people in the community about what we're doing, I'll do brain game stuff. And what happens is the higher functioning people come in and try and dominate. Why? Because
Oh
they know all the
gosh.
answers. So I usually pick on people to answer, the things, because I know the ones who struggle, they're not going to get the answer before the high functioning people are going to get it. They're going to have it in a
Yeah.
second. So like if I have a game where there are 10 or 15 or 20 possible answers, I'll just start going through the audience one by one. Okay, your turn. What do you think? And if it's not a right answer, I'll typically go, what do you guys think? Does that sound good? A lot of them will go, no, 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 no. I go, okay, so what do you think then? And I'll go to the next one. That way I get them involved. See, when it's one on one, it's all about them. And
Yeah.
now I know what their issue is, right? Maybe they're having short-term memory issues, but their long-term memory is intact. Maybe their processing speed is not what they want it to be, but they're not losing words. Well, then why am I doing word stuff with them? But see, in a
Hmm.
group, I don't know that. I'm going to do word stuff because
Right.
it's easy and it's kind of fun and people are going to like it. And I'll challenge them a bit, and that's okay. Plus, when I'm doing one-on-one work, I know what their interests are and I can pattern it around that. Like if
Yeah.
I know they're used to be really into music, I might find out who they really loved and build some things around that. Or
Makes sense.
it could be any topic at all. Like the person I worked with that was a language major and was fluent in two languages and didn't speak either one anymore. And I was like, do you miss either one? And she said, well, I don't miss French, but I do miss Spanish. And I'm like, you want to relearn Spanish? She goes, "Oh, yeah, that's not me teaching it. I pull up an app and it
Right.
starts to teach her while I'm there, and we
Yeah.
do what we can. So that would work. So that way I can individualize it to the level of need they have and to what their interests are. That's why one-on-one works really well. The group stuff, it's being done in a lot of these communities anyway. They're doing group stuff. They're just not doing
Right.
the
I do.
one-on-one
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. That makes sense too. And I do, I can see that. I can see human nature coming out. We want to
Yeah.
win, like you said. So
Yeah.
that does make total sense. Well, Ron, thank you so much for all the information that you have shared. I think the work that Enlighten is doing is so needed, and I hope more communities will bring you in and that you guys can help more people because it's a much needed dose of what that brain training can give them that they're not getting elsewhere.
Christy, will you give me a few more minutes to tell you a couple other things about what we're doing?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much. Okay. So a couple other things you need to know. What we're doing is covered by traditional Medicare. If they have a Medicare policy with a supplemental plan, it's covered. And that's majority of who we work with. If they have a what's called an advantage plan, which medical professionals
Yeah.
like to call disadvantage plans. If they have an advantage plan, it matters the plan. Some of them cover it, some of them don't. Some of them cover it well, and some don't. It just
Okay.
varies, right? But there's no contracts on what we're doing. We don't charge communities to let us in. We don't lock in people that are using our services. They can stop anytime they want if it's not for them, right?
Okay.
But we make it super easy for them. How do I get to a community where someone is? I need them to get someone in that community that works there to reach out to us. So I'm looking always for connections to senior living communities. And I need to eventually get to the executive directors because they have to be on board. If they're on board, we can probably make it work. But, if someone says, well, I want this in my community, I'm willing. I can't get a clinician to come in and do one session or two sessions a week with one person because our work is typically twice a week. Medicare will pay twice a week. It won't pay more. So we do twice a
Got
week.
it.
And so I'm always looking for connections to senior living communities. And then if there's enough interest in the community, then we go and try and hire someone to do that work. And if they're interested, hopefully at the end of this, you'll put my contact information, name and contact, and they can contact me. Now, if they're not living in a community, they can still contact me. And what I'm going to tell them is, would you drive twice a week to a community? Because communities will allow visitors to come in and let us work with them. Because
Okay.
if they're comfortable in the community they're in, if they ever decide to move to a community, they're probably going to come to one they've been coming to visit
Sure.
us for years.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll try and find a community we're in near them. And if there isn't one near them, then hopefully they may have a connection with someone who has a connection to a community near them, and maybe we can get going in a community near them. So right now we've got about 7 clinicians working in probably about 12, 15 communities. We have them all across DFW and even in Houston. So we got
Okay.
Dallas, Arlington, Denton, all different places. And we're talking to place in Garland and Plano now that is interested in us, and we'll see where we end up going.
I love that little tip about them being able to drive because if an individual is listening to this and they're like, I want that, but they can't get it because they don't live in a community, that's a good thing to know.
But they can still do the 5 things,
Yes, they
even if we're
can.
not with them. They don't
Yes, they
need
can.
us to do the 5 things. We're just the ones who are reminding them 5 things, and let's go sit
Yeah.
down and do at least twice a week challenging activities and keep doing them every day. Just like a physical therapist would have told me, rehabbing or getting in shape,
Right.
they do the same thing. It's the same concept.
Right. I do always ask my guests to let people know how they can reach them. So I'll give you an opportunity to do that right now.
So you have my contact info. I'd love for you to put it up on screen. It's the only way they'll do it. But I just go to me directly. You can go to enlightenseniorcare.com and contact that way, or you can just go to me, Ron Nevelow, and Christy will put up my phone number and email address. You can go either way. If it's phone number, leave me a message. I'm not going to answer it. I don't answer
I'll I'll
anyone.
put
I
it
don't know specifically who it is, but the number you have
yeah.
for me, Christy, and email address, put it up. That's the way to go.
I'll put it in the description box for everybody.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right. Thank you again. I appreciate your time today. It was great. Much needed
Thanks for
information.
having me.